Coming up on Network Africa, a Kenyan court jails 7 union officials over doctor strike. And Egypt seeks an end to illegal migration in key port cities. Plus, a Zimbabwean artist turns waste into art. Hello and welcome to the program. I am BC Adebayo. We begin with a roundup of events that happened over the weekend.
A top militant and 3 others were killed in Central African Republic, CAR, when a UN helicopter fired on fighters advancing towards the town of Bambari. Spokesman Vladimir Montero added that United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in the CAR shot at fighters from the Popular Front for the Renaissance of CAR on Saturday, after they crossed the red line it had set north of the town, and that toll had not been established. The fighters from the Popular Front for the Renaissance of CAR is the largest group within a mostly Muslim rebellion, formerly known as Seleka, which ousted then-President Francois Bozize in 2013. Months of reprisal killings between Muslims and Christians ensued, resulting in thousands of deaths until elections last year ushered in relative calm. Elsewhere, Cameroon police killed 2 protesters and wounded 10 others in the latest attack of violence on the English-speaking northwest of the mostly francophone country. Protests began in November 2016 in the northwestern town of Bamenda, when lawyers and teachers claimed their rights were being neglected by Cameroon's French-speaking majority. The violence occurred in Ndop, about 40 kilometers to the east. Police opened fire when a crowd of about 100 people descended on the police station, demanding the release of people arrested on suspicion of setting fire to a French-speaking school on Wednesday last week. Then, in Ivory Coast, 6 journalists are expected to appear in court, charged with spreading false information following a mutiny last week by more than 2,000 soldiers demanding bonus payments. The journalists reported that the Ivorian government had agreed to pay the mutineers about $11,000 each to persuade them to go back to work. This opposed an official statement that the troops had apologized and no money was involved. The Ivorian Special Forces, who report directly to the president's office, suspect their commanders of stealing part of their salaries. This report comes a month after regular soldiers staged a mutiny over pay and conditions.
A Kenyan court has jailed 7 union officials for a month over a doctor's strike that has crippled public hospitals for 10 weeks. High Court Judge Helen Waslewat handed down suspended sentences to the officials a month ago after they ignored an earlier court order to end the strike. The nationwide strike involving thousands of doctors and nurses began on December the 5th, leaving patients without basic medical care.
A Kenyan judge ordered officials from the National Doctors Union to be jailed amidst the strike in public hospitals. Doctors in public hospitals have been on strike since December 5 over pay and conditions. In December, a court ruled that the strike was illegal. And last month, Justice Helen Wasiwa sentenced leaders to jail for ignoring her earlier ruling, but suspended the sentence to allow for negotiations. As news of the ruling emerged, truckloads of riot police took up positions, and doctors wearing white gowns and surgical caps blew whistles and chanted angrily in the street. A series of corruption scandals, including an investigation into millions of dollars allegedly missing from the health ministry, has bolstered support for the doctors. The union has 5,000 members. It wants the government to implement a deal agreed in 2013 to give doctors 150 to 180% pay rise on basic salaries. review working conditions, job structures and criteria for promotions, and address understaffing in state hospitals. The government say it can only afford a 40% rise. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union had warned that doctors in private hospitals might also strike if union officials were jailed. University lecturers are also striking over pay, deepening a political crisis ahead of the elections in August, when Kenyans choose the next president, members of the parliament, and local governors.
Well, joining us to talk more on this is the VOA's Jill Craig. Thank you for joining us, Jill.
You're welcome.
Now, what more can you tell us about this trial?
You gave a pretty good description now, but I can say that the judge spent about 2 hours listening to arguments from the doctor's lawyer before she gave that verdict that indeed the 7 union leaders would be going to jail for not ending the strike like had been previously asked by the court. I can also say that the protesters outside were making their voices heard loud and clear. They were wearing there were many doctors outside wearing their doctor's coats and protesting. And then when the union officials left the courthouse, they went to a police station for processing. And some of those protesters followed, and some went to another location where they continued to try to make their voices heard. So that is pretty much the gist of what happened.
With the strike going on for over 10 weeks, one can only imagine how bad the state of health services in Kenya would be. But how are the patients holding up?
As you say, it's quite grim, to be very honest. The patients in the public hospitals, they're not able to get medical services. So many of them, and these are the lucky ones, are going to private hospitals. But the private hospitals cost a lot of money. They have to scrape and scrounge around for that money, taking out loans. And then as a result, it means that the private hospitals are overcrowded. So currently, the situation is quite grim for people that don't have a lot of money and that may or may not have a medical emergency in Kenya.